Today, we're looking at a blue-black ink by Kaweco Midnight Blue. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below, but if you've got the time, I would appreciate you checking out the entire video. If you'd like, you can follow me over on Instagram as an ink guy. Also, if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews daily, so I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's tankard with an oblique italic nib to write for a day and to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Additional papers will show up later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading all the way through it, 13 seconds to dry. Medium is much darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 17 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both shows no color variation, although the extra fine has plenty. Tomoe River. No bleeding and normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, 25 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both shows no color variation. We didn't get it in the writing. And Rhodia. With no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, minor shading. It does. Look at the word Kaweco. Look at the word blue. It has it. I started to say no, but it's definitely there. Extra fine is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading, not as standout as on the Clairfontaine, but it's definitely there. Look at the word fox. How jump starts light and gets dark, brown starts dark and gets light. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, although we do get some with the extra fine. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this is an incredibly interesting chromatography because there's this very light blue at the bottom that is obviously staying there. Now it is pushing up a little bit, but immediately into water, it started bonding with that paper. There is water separation between that blue and this kind of magenta tone that comes in. And at the very top of that magenta tone, it's got to be a different dye, but the tone looks almost the same as the blue from the bottom. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. That blue at the bottom, that line is very much there, very bonded with the paper. It's its own line. There's a huge amount of water separation. From there up to that very little bit of magenta, then that very bright blue again. It's very interesting that it appears to be two dyes that are the same tone of blue, but that respond differently. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation if I wanted to go back and highlight because of the lowercase h. I don't want that much blowout or that much loss in my writing and in my notes. Water is completely reactivating and lifting this off the page. In only 30 seconds, we see quite a bit of the white of the paper coming through. Pen flush does everything that water does and nothing more, just a little bit faster. And the 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper. I test viscosity or flow by using a tilt test that I've linked in this video. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Kaweco's Midnight Blue has a viscosity of 2.08, making it a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Kaweco's Midnight Blue has an average dry time of 17 seconds, so despite it being wet, its dry time is not just normal, but average. Instead of finding inks that look like Kaweco's Midnight Blue, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went with a nice red Robert Oster Crimson. The second writing sample is done on Levenger, Franklin Christoph, and black and red paper. Here we're looking at Levenger paper. We get no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice shading, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is quite a bit darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both shows no color variation, although we do get some with the extra fine. Franklin Christoph paper, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a lot darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, only spots of shading, like if you look at the word brown, darker to lighter. There's spots like that. The word fox looks much darker than the word lazy. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is about this, just a hair lighter than just a hair darker than the extra fine. With no feather spread, halo sheen, it still offers shading. Look at the word over. Look at the word lazy, the word fox, it's definitely there. 11 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both aren't really showing much color variation, although we definitely get it in the writing. Black and red notebooks, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is a little darker than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, definitely some shading going on. Look at the word the, look at the word brown, the word over, the word dog. It's definitely there. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby for the extra fine shows no color variation. The scrubby of the medium does show some, and that's how it worked in the writing. And that's all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Kaweco's Midnight Blue? It does give some decent shading, giving the right pen. Now, it's a very good blue-black, and in cartridge form, it's one of the favorite blue-blacks for me. Although I do have blue-blacks I prefer more, this is a really good one, especially in my pocket pens. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? Now, the ink itself can give a variety of colors depending on the flow of the pen, from much lighter in a very dry pen to very dark, almost black in a very wet pen. I would prefer it from a medium flow fine, which is what is normally in my pocket. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.